This is CNN Breaking News.
Welcome back, everybody. We're following this breaking news suicide bombing that's taken place outside the U.S. Embassy in Turkey. These are the live pictures now of the scene. One person is reported dead. At least 2 others have been hurt. Want to get right to Senator Dan Coates. He's a Republican from Indiana. He joins us from Capitol Hill. He is formerly, though, the ambassador to Germany. So, if you will, Senator, thank you for joining us. And let's talk a little bit about this blast that's happened in front of the U.S. Embassy in Ankara, Turkey. What can you tell me about this? What are you hearing about this situation, sir?
Well, U.S. presence everywhere in the world is under threat. And I think we have to be very careful about how we deploy our ambassadors and those who are representing the United States. We're living a dangerous time, and there are a number of different entities that want to harm us. And so I think this is just yet another example that we have many challenges in front of us on a security front.
We're continuing to watch what happens there. We're just getting that preliminary information about 1 person dead, a couple of other people have been wounded, and it appears to be a suicide bombing that's taken place. Let's talk a little bit about the Chuck Hagel hearing yesterday, which was, I thought, in terms of performance, if you will, kind of a mess for him. Here's an op-ed from Chris Cillizza of the Fix blog. Former Nebraska Senator Chuck Hagel was at turns halting, befuddled, often just plain bad during his confirmation hearing to be the next Secretary of Defense. And it almost certainly won't keep him from becoming the next man to lead the Pentagon. Outside of the performance-type stumbles, what do you think were his actual, I guess, content stumbles? And do you agree it won't keep him from becoming the next Secretary of Defense?
Well, as most of us know now, Chuck Hagel had a very spotty record relative to policy positions that would put him in a position to represent the mainstream of policy as Secretary of Defense. And I don't think he did himself any good yesterday in terms of how he addressed it. He seemed very uncomfortable to many of the questions. I think he left the impression of who's the real Chuck Hagel, the one who for more than a decade has taken extreme positions outside the range of Republican or Democrat administrations, or the Chuck Hagel who suddenly is trying to recast himself once he's been nominated. He stumbled on some key questions. He had to be corrected on a couple of issues. I don't think it was a good day for Chuck Hagel.
One of the issues that I know you're very interested in is the issue of containment. I want to play a little bit of what he said about containment, and as you said, had to be corrected on that. Let's play that first.
I've just been handed a note that I misspoke and said I supported the president's position on containment. If I said that, it meant to say that obviously his position on containment, we don't have a position on containment.
Just to make sure your correction is clear, we do have a position on containment, which is that we do not favor containment.
We do not favor containment. That's the president's position, and that was my position.
Thank you. I just want to clarify the clarify.
That was Senator Levin helping him out there a little bit. So when I guess the takeaway seems to be that you're concerned that he's not going to take military action no matter what, if in fact he is sworn in as a Secretary of Defense. Is that your big worry in that issue?
My biggest concern is his position on Iran. Iran, as we know, has been relentlessly pursuing the acquisition of and being able to have a nuclear weapons capability. This is a threat to not just the Middle East, but to the world. And 4 presidents, 2 Republican, 2 Democrat, including this president, have said this is totally unacceptable. Yet Chuck Hagel's position on the sanctions and the kinds of things we need to do to prevent this has not been in tune with where we need to go to address this. I think this is the #1 challenge to the United States from a foreign policy standpoint and from the national security standpoint. And Chuck Hagel is simply off the page on this. And that was the primary reason why I decided I could not support him, or whether it's a Republican or Democrat, could support someone who took that position.
So then let's go back to where we began, which was Chris Cillizza basically saying it won't keep him from becoming the next man to lead the Pentagon. By some counts, it looks like he's got 56 votes, which would be enough to pass, maybe not enough to stave off a filibuster. What are your predictions then? Where does this go?
Well, I think it's a little too early to tell. Based on the performance yesterday, I think new questions will arise. If Democrats want to salute the president and turn their head the other way, I suppose he could be nominated. But I do think people on both sides, whether Republicans or Democrats, have some real questions about whether this is the right person for this critical position.
You think that 56 votes that people are counting are not really 56 votes after what happened yesterday?
I would want to go back and recount those after yesterday if I were endorsing Senator Hagel.
Senator Dan Coats from Indiana joining us this morning. Nice to see you, sir. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank
Appreciate it. You bet.
Thank you.
We're obviously going to continue to talk about what happened yesterday. That was such a, I mean, the testimony by Chuck Hagel was just a mess. And I think what Senator Coats has just said about recounting those numbers, right, because it all comes down to numbers, is going to be fascinating.
It was 7.5 hours. He had done 3, quote-unquote,